네, 안녕하세요. 크립토인사이트 진행을 맡은 김세영입니다. 지금 크립토 시장의 가장 큰 화두는 탈중앙화 파생상품입니다. 오늘 CEO 인사이트에서는 블록체인 기반 무허가 선물 거래로 금융의 새로운 패러다임을 열고 있는 블록체인 SynFutures, 중앙화 거래 의존도에서 벗어나서 누구나 자유롭게 파생상품을 거래하는 시대. SynFutures는 그 변화의 최전선에서 어떤 혁신을 만들어가고 있을까요? 오늘 이야기 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 네, 오늘 이 시간은 SynFutures 공동창립자 마크리와 함께 이야기 나눠보도록 할게요. 안녕하십니까? So I heard you're like half Korean American, is it right?
Yeah, I'm Korean American. I was born in the U.S.
That's why I just bowed.
Yeah.
So could you just tell a brief introduction about you?
Sure. My name is Mark, and I'm the co-founder of SynFutures. I've been working on this project with my team for the last 4+ years. But before that, I think like a lot of people in DeFi, I started my career in TradFi, so traditional finance. I worked at a boutique private equity firm where we looked over a lot of mid-market manufacturing and technology companies. A few years in, I ended up switching my career to the agency side. So I started a marketing and PR agency working with a lot of Web 2 technology companies. So a lot of like high growth emerging tech companies out of Silicon Valley. And during that time, around 2017, 2018, I started getting exposure to blockchain because a lot of the Silicon Valley funds were starting to invest in some blockchain projects. So I got introduced to some of these projects. I was very early to work with projects like Solana, Huobi, and I've worked with dozens of really, I think, pivotal early stage Web3 companies. So I kind of pivoted my agency to the Web3 side, and I got to a point in my career where I kind of wanted to go back to my roots in TradFi. And so I met the founding team of SynFutures, and we decided to launch this perpdex, which I can talk a little more about a little bit later.
네, 우리 공동창립자 마크리 씨는 2017년에서 18년쯤에 솔라나와 같은 그런 체인들의 초반과 함께 좀 같이 일을 했다고 합니다. 그리고 나서 SynFutures를 창립을 했다고 하는데 SynFutures 익숙하지 않은 분들을 위해서 어떤 프로젝트인지도 좀 들어보겠습니다. So for those who may not be familiar with SynFutures, could you tell us what the project is and how would you describe the project?
Yeah, so I think from the easiest way to understand it is it's trading software, right? So it lets anyone trade any asset, so any tokenized asset that could be Bitcoin, Ethereum, any of the majors, altcoins, meme coins. We even at one point supported NFTs. And now we're adding support for RWAs, real world assets, so things like crude oil, gold, and we're going to offer some tokenized equities in the future. And so anyone can come to our platform, connect their wallet, and trade anything they want with leverage. So being able to long or short and really speculate on the price of the market. But it's not just for speculation. It's also a great way to arbitrage and hedge risk. So it delivers a very capital efficient way to create financial opportunities in any tokenized market.
그러니까 뭐 코인들뿐만 아니라 뭐 RWA나 NFT, 뭐 금까지 여러 가지를 좀 거래할 수 있는 플랫폼이라고 하는데요. 뭐 레버리지도 당연히 거래를 할 수 있겠죠. 자, 그렇다면 이 SynFutures가 디파이나 파생상품 분야 쪽에서 좀 해결하고자 하는 그 시장 문제가 무엇일지도 여쭤보겠습니다. So could you tell us what specific market issue SynFutures aims to solve within the DeFi or derivatives sector?
Yeah, I guess starting like with the big picture in DeFi. So we want to give users control over their assets, right? So this is very different from centralized exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, and others where they take custody of your funds. And at any given time, they could freeze it if they want. I think with DeFi platforms like SynFutures, you just trust the code. You don't have to trust this middleman, right? So you connect your wallet. The assets are always in your custody, managed by the smart contract. Of course, when you're using DeFi, you have to make sure the platform you're using is trusted, audited by a reputable security firm. But yeah, I think starting from there, giving users custody and transparency. And then ultimately making this making these kind of financial products more accessible to the average person. You know, growing up, I think a lot of people wanted to speculate in markets, but it's very hard for people to access the same products across the world, right? So maybe in the US, I can only access certain types of derivatives and certain types of assets. And it varies by jurisdiction. Even, you know, New York is different from California, for example. But when you look at it globally, it's actually even more, you know, it's even more diverse in the regulatory landscape. And so I think it's very challenging for people to create new financial opportunities when they have limited access. I think the goal of DeFi and for SynFutures definitely is to provide financial opportunities, make it easily accessible, and make it open to anyone. And then I think the final point is making it truly permissionless, which means, you know, historically with markets, you have the gatekeepers, right, which are the traditional finance organizations, the regulators, et cetera. But with platforms like SynFutures, we offer, A, we let anyone on board, right? B, we let anyone list a market. So if there's a big project that comes along and they want to see their token have a futures market on SynFutures, they can do that without any permission, right? They just provide the liquidity and they can launch a market. And it's really about like enabling free markets. So let's let the market decide what people want to trade and when they want to trade it.
네, 그렇다면 온체인 파생상품 거래에서 가장 큰 기술적 도전 과제가 뭐였는지도 좀 들어보겠습니다. So what was the biggest technical challenges in on-chain derivatives trading and how did you solve it?
The biggest challenge I would say is just the technical limitations. When you're building a DeFi product, especially a high-performing product like a perp-stex, you really need the infrastructure to be able to support, you know, the speed, the latency that's needed to provide like a seamless trading experience. I think for a very long time, a lot of projects like ours have been dependent on our chain partners, right? So, you know, we launched 4 years ago on Ethereum, and we quickly realized Ethereum is not, it's good as the base security layer, but it's not great for a protocol layer, especially for a high-frequency product like perp trading. So we eventually moved to Polygon, we expanded to Base, and now, because we don't want to be limited by the infrastructure there, we've launched our own chain. I think that's the biggest technical limitation is you're reliant on the infrastructure that you're using, but now it's very easy for projects to launch their own L1 chains, L2 chains, dApp chains. And so I think this is the beginning of like a renaissance for DeFi products and dApps in general.
자, 그러면은 지금 유동성 공급자들이 SynFutures에서 어떻게 수익을 창출하는지 또 리스크 관리는 어떻게 이루어지는지 여쭤볼게요. So how do liquidity providers generate profits on SynFutures and how does the platform manage potential risks?
So liquidity providers are taking the counter trade usually on the AMM side. So if someone provides liquidity, basically, if someone opens a trade, the liquidity pool is taking the counter trade. So if the user opens it long, the liquidity pool opens a short. Some of the ways we're managing risk management, though, is we're isolating the pool. So every asset has its own isolated pool. And this is important because if there's a major market fluctuation on some meme coin and it drops, you know, or it increases 500%, it doesn't affect the rest of the assets or the rest of the pools on the platform. In terms of risk management, we've been doing this for a long time now, and we've been audited by multiple firms. We deploy many different industry best practices, like using a moving average for having multiple oracles just in case one fails, and things like that. So, you know, in the history of SynFutures, we haven't had any major hacks, exploits, or LP issues. So we're confident that we've designed a product that's able to scale.
근데 그 디파이 안에서 무기한 선물이 가장 큰 트렌드가 되고 있는데 이 SynFutures가 이 트렌드에서 어떤 위치에 있는지도 좀 들어볼게요. So perpetual futures have become one of the biggest trends in DeFi, right? So where does SynFutures stand within this trend? And could you share some of your recent key achievements or metrics?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we've been in this market quite long. So we were one of the first perp dexes to launch very early on, around the same time as like a little after DYDX, if people remember that one. And it's been 4 years, and in that time we've done about 400 billion in cumulative trading volume. We've had hundreds of thousands of users, and at our peak we were doing a few hundred million in volume per day. So we definitely see the product market fit. We see the demand from the crypto native audience. I think where there's a big gap right now is the crypto native audience and like the mainstream retail audience. And one of the big things that we're doing to differentiate ourselves is we are trying to build this DeFi perp dex that competes directly with centralized exchanges. So I think going forward, we no longer look at just, you know, Hyperliquid and these other big perp dexes as a competitor. We're also looking at, like, let's say Binance Futures as a potential competitor, because as we continue to improve our infrastructure, we're able to bring down the latency and increase efficiency. You know, the biggest challenge with DeFi perp dexes up till now is that the user experience, I think, lagged in terms of speed, efficiency, cost, and just overall UX design. But that's changed a lot. We have some major updates coming up that I think is really going to close the gap between the two. So, you know, perpetual futures, it's not something we invented, but we're taking something that was innovated by, you know, Arthur Hayes and Bybit, not Bybit, sorry, BitMEX. And we're taking it, putting it fully on chain and making it a comparable solution to centralized venues.
오케이. 그래도 가장 오래된 플랫폼 중에 하나라고 말씀을 하시면서 압도적인 뭐 거래량이나 유동성 그리고 유저들을 좀 보유하고 계신다고 하네요. 그 유저들의 불편사항을 좀 개선시켜주기 위해서 그런 업데이트도 진행할 계획이다라고 말씀하고 계시는데, 그럼 한국에 오신 만큼 이 한국 시장이 SynFutures에게 어떤 중요한 역할을 하고 있는지 여쭤보겠습니다. So you came to Korea, so could you share a perspective on the Korean market and why does it play such an important role to SynFutures?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So every project wants to break into the Korean market, but I think for different reasons. For us, I mean, so I have a tie to Korea, right? My family is Korean, I'm Korean American, and so this is a market that I believe that I understand to some extent. But Korea's an exciting market for innovation in general, because historically Koreans have always been early adopters to technology, right? So that's true in mobile, that's true in everything internet related, and I see the same happening in on-chain products, DeFi. You know, I think today the DeFi market in Korea is still relatively small compared to the number of like retail token holders, right? But we see it becoming more of an active market, and you know, the reality is like Koreans look for opportunities, right? They're very savvy in using technology to kind of improve their lives, and I think they see DeFi as this like new avenue to access global markets. And so I do think the Korean market is well primed to be a leader in crypto. I mean, already on the retail token side, it represents one of the most active markets in the world, right? And it really underscores this idea that financial opportunities can be accessed through innovative technology like DeFi, and Koreans definitely recognize it.
Okay. 사실 뭐 많은 나라들이 한국 시장에 들어오려고 하잖아요. 일단 혁신적이고 인터넷 혁명도 빠르게 뭐 일어난 나라이고, 디파이 시장이 사실 아직까지는 한국에서 좀 적은 비중을 차지하고 있기 때문에 좀 업데이트될 가능성이 좀 높고, 한국인들이 좀 글로벌 마켓으로 좀 옮기기 위해서 많은 관심을 보이고 있는 그런 디파이 분야다라고 좀 말씀하셨습니다. 자, 그렇다면은 신퓨처스의 장기 비전은 무엇인지, 앞으로 2, 3년간의 어떤 프로젝트를 좀 보고 계시는지 좀 여쭤보도록 할게요. So, looking ahead, what's SynFutures's long-term vision, and where do you imagine the project will be like 2 or 3 years from now?
Yeah, that's a great question, because like I mentioned, it's been 4 years. 4 years in crypto is a long, long time. But I feel like we're getting our second win, right? So this is like we're entering the next era for SynFutures. This is coming with actually a major rebrand. So I think shortly after this airs, maybe it's no longer SynFutures, but an expanded kind of brand. And really represents what we're becoming. So we started as a perp dex, and I think we've really proven out the model, we've scaled it, and we've improved it a ton. And now we want to integrate other financial products. So adding yield-bearing products. We already have spot trading on the platform, and we're looking to create this like fully on-chain financial ecosystem that anyone can access, right? And it really evens, we hope that people can use platforms like SynFutures to even the playing field of financial opportunities globally. So I think what users can, or what the audience can expect to see in the next couple of years is how we kind of integrate different financial products, bring them fully on-chain, make them accessible to the masses, and then make them easy to navigate. So like I mentioned, it starts with trading, but it goes into lending, borrowing, yield products, and even on-chain wealth management services. So we don't think we're going to necessarily replace the traditional finance ecosystem, but we definitely want to serve as a new age alternative.
자, 그럼 초보 트레이더들 그리고 전문 트레이더들 모두를 위해서 뭐 UX나 UI 개선 계획이 무엇인지도 들어봐야겠죠. So what are your UX, UI improvement plans for both beginner and professional traders?
Okay, yeah. So starting with beginner traders, because I think that's the major market opportunity to onboard like the masses. We're making it easier in the terms of like the user flow. So right now, when you want to use any perp dex, not just SynFutures, you have to connect your wallet, sign multiple transactions, give it approvals. So maybe to make a trade, it takes 4 to 5 steps. And that doesn't even include bridging of assets, right? So if you have assets on on multiple different chains and you want to move it to the chain of choice where your favorite perp dex is, it's a very tedious process. So we are right now moving to our own L1 chain. Right? We were previously on Base, we're moving to our L1 chain. And this gives us the flexibility and the customization to remove a lot of these frictions. So it should work just like a SEX, right? You connect your wallet, then you trade. Just 1 or 2 buttons, 1 or 2 clicks, and you're done, right? That's number one for beginner traders. The second thing, we're also making it mobile friendly. So, you know, I think DeFi products today have historically been desktop focused, and the world is mobile, right? So we definitely need to move our products mobile if we're going to attract or appeal to the masses. For professional traders, where they care about things like cost efficiency, capital efficiency, obviously, and I think also charting. So we're integrating some advanced charting features into our platform, so they can, they're much more savvy traders. They're looking for arbitrage opportunities, or they're looking at trend lines, and so we definitely want to enable that. But the other benefit of moving to our own chain is that our latency drops from, let's say, 2 seconds on a general purpose EVM chain, L2, to about 50 milliseconds. And what that means is when you trade, the liquidity is going to be much higher, because we're now able to enable market makers to create capital efficient markets on SynFutures. The other thing is, this means it's going to be a lot more scalable. We'll be able to support more assets. And I think overall for both beginner traders and expert traders, we're going to build this very robust platform that enables like anyone to get started.
Okay, so 사실 원래는 그 코인 투자를 할 때 계좌를 만드는데 되게 오래 걸리고 복잡했는데 그거를 조금 더 쉽게 만들어준다라고 말씀하셨고요. 또 사실 우리가 컴퓨터로 좀 많이 하잖아요. 그거를 핸드폰, 모바일로 좀 쉽게 하는 방법도 고안하고 계신다고 합니다. 그리고 제일 중요한 게 거래할 때 그 시간차잖아요. 한 2초 정도 걸리는 거를 조금 더 짧게 만들고 계신다고 합니다. 자, 그러면 지금 SynFutures의 주요 사용자층은 누구고 어떤 사용자층을 더 확대하고 싶으신지도 여쭤보겠습니다. So who are SynFutures' main user demographics currently, and which user groups do you want to expand to?
Yeah, I think with all DeFi products right now, the user demographic is probably on the younger side. So between 20s to 30s, very internet savvy, very technology savvy, and like really early on the early adoption curve, right? I think if crypto and DeFi is to succeed in the world, then we need to break into the older demographic as well. So, you know, let's say like the 30, 40 plus audience, right? Because these are the audiences with a lot of spending power. And they continue to look for new opportunities across all different asset classes. So not just crypto, they're looking at real estate, they're looking at equities. And so we want to position crypto as this viable asset class for people to speculate on for financial opportunities. So we definitely want to break into this more global and older audience. But as I mentioned, we've had a lot of barriers in the past, but we are finally at a place where I think we can deliver this like very seamless experience that everyone has come to expect from their favorite Web2 apps.
그럼 이제 벌써 마지막 질문입니다. 마지막으로 한국 암호화폐 커뮤니티나 사용자들에게 전하고 싶은 메시지가 무엇인지 여쭤볼게요. So lastly, do you have any message for the Korean crypto community or the users there?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for supporting us all these years. You know, what's really interesting is we never meant to expand into Korea. When we started years ago, we noticed that one of our most active communities were Koreans. I'm not sure how they found us, but Koreans are very good at, you know, digging up good projects. And so we've kind of grown with them over time, and, you know, some have come and go. But I think with this next phase, you know, especially with us being listed on Upbit and Bithumb, we have access to most of the Korean market. I think now is the time to really double down on the Korean community. So I just want to say thank you all for following our journey. We have a lot more coming up for the Korean market. We're going to run some localized campaigns, host many offline events. So I hope to meet each and every one of you in person. And I always say my DMs are always open. I'm always open to speaking with community members about what we can do better. So yeah, I welcome any feedback and any suggestions.
Okay. 네, 누구나 금융의 주체가 되는 시대를 열어가고 있는 온체인 파생상품 시장의 혁신을 선도하는 SynFutures였습니다. 앞으로 행보 저희 크립토인사이트에서도 응원하도록 하겠습니다. 네, 오늘 귀한 말씀 감사합니다. Thank you so much for joining us on 크립토인사이트 today.
Yeah, thank you.
크립토인사이트 오늘 준비한 내용은 여기까지입니다. 네, 저희 방송은 투자 권유 목적이 아니고요. 정보 제공을 위한 방송이라는 점 알려드리도록 하겠습니다. 네, 오늘 저희 크립토인사이트 끝까지 함께해 주신 여러분 고맙습니다.